also there are those who were injured in this incident. Let's remember and pray for all of them, especially for those who are injured and the families, to Allah grant them patience to endure these difficult times. With Surah Fatiha and Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين روحي وأرواحنا وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفدا. Unfortunately, this holy month of Rajab, we heard the news, and this night, which tomorrow is the wilad and the birth of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad, Imam Muhammad al-Taqi alayhi salam, it left this bitter taste in our mouth that although we are living at a time that we expect humanity to come together stronger than before, the ways that we are able to connect with each other, it's much more affordable, much more possible, and somehow transparency has to be much better, because to verify news is a bit easier rather than, let's say, 30 years ago when you hear something in the TV or in the news, you were not able to actually go out there and see it for yourself. But right now, with our access to social media, with our access to a lot of resources out there, it would be not as difficult. But unfortunately, hatred finds its place in any time, including our time. And this example, who the report says was motivated by white supremacists, and in his manifesto he declared his hatred toward immigrants and his xenophobia, is just another reason to understand that when there is a preach for hatred, there will be people who pick it up. When you talk about division and you're talking about sides, there will be always people who pick sides. So at this difficult time, I would say our du'as and our prayers are with the victims, and at the same time the soul of the people who lost their lives in the month of Rajab on Friday in the middle of Jummah prayers is definitely with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They put their lives in the path of Allah, and the only crime they committed was that they believed in something different than others. So I don't think that, especially those who lost their lives, they need our pity. They gave their life for what they believed in. And to those who, for whatever reason, they think that these kind of attacks can somehow scare people, scare us to give up on our identity, on who we are, on our faith, the presence of all of us tonight here is a clear answer. And billions of Muslims who participated on the next day on a different time zone, who participated in Jummah prayers even after hearing the news that this attack took place. It's a clear message that we will not cave in to terror, to fear, and we're proud of who we are, and inshallah, by the support of Allah, by the strength that we earn from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will stand by what is right and justice no matter what. And hopefully Allah help us to be able to resist against any form of bigotry, any form of hatred that we see, including the white supremacy, which in the last few years was revived somehow. It existed, but now got a different energy because of the political climate, especially in America. Once again, we ask Allah to give us that energy and the strength to be strong enough to be steadfast, to acknowledge that difficult times will not stay forever, and that one day truth will prevail and the haqq and justice will be established. For that, we ask Allah for an increase of power and increase of strength in this path, inshallah. Recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Before I go to the speech, just be careful at this time when these kind of incident happens. Unfortunately, people share videos, and alhamdulillah, I receive a lot of texts that people actually say this. But I said this even in previous unpleasant form of violence that took place. There are always videos, unfortunately. Please avoid spreading these videos. Avoid watching them. Avoid sending them to anyone. Number one is because what's the point of watching that? That's the first question we have to ask ourselves. What do we gain from watching that video? It's going to have possibly two impacts. One is to scare us. You look at that, you feel that sense of fear, which is not healthy anyway. Or it doesn't impact you in any way. You watch it and nothing. And that is also unhealthy, that you watch all that cruelty and blood and it doesn't impact you. So in both cases, there's no winning. There's no benefit out of watching that. So don't share the video. And anybody who does share the video, warn them. Send them a text to stop doing that. It also is kind of a disrespect to the victims who lost their lives, and definitely not them, not their families are okay with them being watched to be killed or being injured. But at the same time, I'm in favor of spreading who this person was. Don't hide his identity. Don't hide who he was. If you have access and you usually do these kind of things, do it. But if you don't, it's not necessary for you to go and initiate a movement to promote and to introduce this person. And it's interesting, people who are pretty much, their ideology is a backbone of this person's ideology. They say, oh, we feel bad and our prayers are with the victims. They are the same one responsible to encourage such behaviors, this anti-immigrant, anti-Islamic message. They are the same one that they feel bad and they send their du'as and prayers. And then these are the one who say, don't publish his photo. Don't mention his name. These people want fame. Don't do it. And I said, no, do it, please. Yeah, publish. If you can, their image, yes, please put it out there if it's up to you. Their name, yes, definitely, if it's come out. Because when it comes to different religion, the photos and the name is always out there. If it's Muhammad and Ahmad, is always being announced publicly. Why when it comes to a name that is different from that should be concealed? And that's number one. So when it comes to video, please be more respectful toward the victims. And even for your own mental health and well-being, avoid spreading and watching it. Secondly is don't scare your children. Don't scare your children about this incident. There is no need for them to understand the details. Young children, they're not made for this, and they're not meant to be in a position to understand what white supremacy is and how many people died and all that. It's not for them. If they ask you a question, try to be careful how to answer. Don't ignore answering them if they already heard about it. But if they don't know anything about it, don't go to them and scare them. Oh, be more careful from tomorrow when you go to school. That's not going to help them anyway. If you want to teach them how to be safe, that's good all the time. Teach them how to protect themselves in the case of, God forbid, if they were approached by somebody and a stranger and all that. we should not even look for this incident. At all time, it's good to teach all children about safety. That is good. But to scare them, to say, oh, be more careful about this, that will be negatively harmful for them, and you don't want them to be always watching their back for no reason. So that's one. Number two is that sometimes when these incidents happen, said, oh yeah, these white people, be careful with that statement too. White, black, doesn't matter what color, bad or bad, good or good. That's it. Anybody who have ideology that they're somehow superior to others, that's something that is wrong, and it should be condemned, and it should be examined and properly opposed. But if somebody doesn't say that, we cannot hold them accountable for that. Oh, all the white people, or all, we don't want us versus them. That's not the healthy attitude. There is no us, there's no them. There's one community, one society that every human beings live in this society. So that is not our approach. But what we have to attack is the ideology, the core of this ideology. And that, unfortunately, we are part of it sometimes. Sometimes we are part of it. What I mean by that is that sometimes we promote white supremacy. When we say we, and when you say we refer to our nationality. Let's say if your ancestors and forefathers are from anywhere in Middle East or Africa or anywhere. So we people, we're like this. And they say, oh, but look at them, and especially depending on the cultures, when it comes to white, we don't use the word white. One word I know, if you're a Farsi speaker, you probably use Americans. That's the way you say. Americans are like this. And when you mean by American is exactly white people. In Farsi said, Amerikایی ها اینجوریان نه؟ ما بلد نیستیم سر صف وایسیم. آمریکایی ها بلدن. This itself is that misconception that unfortunately we believe in. Oh, we don't have the culture. We don't have this we that unfortunately we humiliate ourselves is, I don't know how it exists among us, but we sell ourselves very cheap. We don't believe that we could be, someone that is strong enough to represent a lot of values, that we have to always compare ourselves with someone out there. And I've had it even here in the masjid. We had Q&A, and in the middle of Q&A, I've heard people say, we Muslims, right? We Muslims. I said, no, we don't. Because if one or two people that they made that mistake, it does not make us we. And I said that sometimes exactly opposite. My observation is very different. And I give you example before, and I'm going to repeat it. These are somehow that white supremacy force us to cave in, to believe in what they say. When Richard Dawkins comes and says Islam did not, introduce any accomplishment, any scientific achievement, and then from Cambridge they have to answer him, no, do you want to know the list of the scientific achievement by Muslim? We can give you. And then he retracted his statement and said, no, I didn't mean Islam in general, I meant in the last, for example, few decades. He changes his statement. Is that sometimes we believed in it. Yeah, we are like this, we are like that. What do you mean we? What do you mean we? And I've heard it. And that makes us to sometimes back off when we should not back off. Our child is being abused in school by the teacher, and we say, no, we don't want to make a big deal. We're Muslim, we have to be forgiving. And I said, no. If that happens to a different child from a different culture, the parents would be there. Why you humiliated my child? Why? If you know the rule properly, the law, that what is the teacher's responsibility, why didn't oppose the teacher? Oh, we're forgiving. No, don't be forgiving. We're scared of nothing. We're scared of nothing. Even, for example, getting a ticket. We are scared to go to the court. What if you go to the court and ask for some? So is a ticket, is it driving? You can go and basically you can protest it, but if it's not, you're going to get the ticket. But if it's out of fear that you're not going, it goes back why you're scared of what. If you're scared of something that because of your skin color, because of your religion, I have to be scared and concerned, white supremacists achieved what they wanted. Is that you lose your confidence, you don't feel that you're part of the society, that you don't deserve the equal treatment and justice. That means they achieved what they wanted. They made you a second-class citizen, and they got it. I remember a flight was canceled, and in this flight, you have to just look. This is not being judgmental or being shallow or anything. In this flight, I see people, you look at them, they're minorities. There are people in brown and black and all that, and then there are white people. Majority of the immigrants, they sat down behind and did nothing. The other one, majority went opposed. Why flight is canceled? I have a meeting. I have something important. What do you mean? What kind of service is this? They opposed it. They protested. They asked for the rights. I'm not saying if they did the right thing or not, but I ask myself why I'm not going forward. If it's that, there's no point. It's not their fault. For me, that was at least my reasoning. It's not their fault. It's the weather is canceled. Why should I go and start an argument? But for some people, they're scared. No, they told me I have to sit down. I have to sit down. You have to comply. It's like that. We think that we heard that the law enforcement, if they ask you to comply, you have to. That is the same situation. No, it's not. So don't let that affects and impacts our behavior. Don't consider our culture, our race somehow inferior to other cultures. Every culture has its own strength. Every culture has its own weaknesses, and that's it. So that's point number 2. Don't let that ideology impact how we perceive ourselves as a whatever culture or race or background we came from. That's it. And we have to teach that to our children. That in your class, you are as good and you could be as good as any other child in that class. That's it. Oh no, because you are this, you have to walk on an eggshell and be more careful. No. That identity is something that we implement, the confidence we give them. And they look at our behavior as well. They look at us as a father, as a mom. How do I interact with other people? Let's say if you go to, you're shopping, and the salesperson is discriminating against you. Don't say I'm going to be forgiving. Your child is watching you. Teach that person a lesson if it's necessary. Talk to their manager. Who gave you the right to talk to me like this? Don't be a fighter. Don't look for excuses to start conflict. I'm not encouraging you to go out there and be promoting rage in any form. No. But if it's necessary for you to demand your right, ask for your right. Why not? I've been waiting in line. Somebody cut you off. Sometimes you understand that person was old. They didn't know you were standing there. Let them go. But sometimes you need that they look at you and they see you with the way you are and they go stand in front of you. Tell them why. I'm standing here. It's important to know that clear line between forgiveness and defeat. Forgiveness is when I can't do something about it. I'm not scared of anything. I can get my right if I want to, but I decide to forgive. That is forgiveness. That is forgiveness. Somebody's old. They're waiting in a line. Please go ahead. I can wait. That's forgiveness. I forgive my right. But if somebody uncommon forced me to accept something, that's not forgiveness. That's humiliation. And in our ideology, that should not be acceptable. If that was the case, Malcolm X would not be Malcolm X. he would have accepted the humiliation. And so many other people who are pioneers, they're advocates, they are the one that we know them for their bravery. They got that because they did not accept oppression. So my brothers and sisters, make sure there are rights, recognize your rights. Recognize your rights and stand for your rights. Don't let these kind of events make you be more concerned. Because sometimes we say, what if they have a gun? You know, what if they have a gun? And I said, you're in a mall and you are shopping something. If they have a gun, there could be everybody having it. You cannot live in fear. Anybody, anywhere in the world, they could have something dangerous, but that should not stop you. Sometimes you're trespassing, you're going to somebody's property and there's some crazy people and you know about the neighborhood. Please be more careful. Don't do it. Don't provoke people. Even when it comes to driving, if you see somebody's angry, they have a bigger car than yours, please avoid road rage. That's understandable. Please don't take my statement, without exception. Recognize what is the right time, when is the right place, where is the right place. So give that identity to our children. Don't scare them. Teach them confidence. Teach them to stand for the right with example, not with telling them, but with example. Your child was bullied, help them to stand up for themselves, and then go to the school and try to say why they were bullied. And lastly, is that be careful about any form of supremacy. Any form of supremacy. When we talk about white supremacy, is that belief that somehow one race is superior to another. But unfortunately, we are responsible to believe some form of superiority to others, not as a race, maybe as a culture, as a nation. That my nation is superior to other people. Nationalism to a level that is something a lot of countries they are going back to. Read about nationalism, by the way. America's approach went back to nationalism, and Middle East, a lot of them went back to nationalism, promoting the sense of identity and to promote your nation. But if it goes out of the proper boundaries, it will become a dangerous threat. And in this society, the last thing we need is to go back to the ancestors of our forefathers and stick to that nationalism. Because this nationalism will swallow that one for you easily. It will swallow it right away. And we're happy because on the new year there is a Hafseen somewhere in America. Oh, our culture is striving and living. We think that is a culture. No, that is not. That's a symbol like so many. There's a peace symbol that is more common in America that has no background than that Hafseen, which is once a year. Our values are more than that. And one of those values is what we're here for too, is our faith. Our faith gives us something that we can unite under that. And with the, as I said, we're a minority in America. We're a minority. And if we make ourselves much more limited and smaller in group, in the name of nationalism, we will lose more, and that is a promise. Not that I make. Every sociologist will make that promise to you. There is the dominant culture, and we're not the dominant one. From any perspective, we're not the dominant one. Media, we don't control it. Education, we don't control it. Even the sense of morality, we don't control it. What aspect we control? So it's a dominant culture. So as the group that we're minority, we have to understand our values, and our faith is a promise of God. If you to stick to those values, Allah guaranteed ultimate success will be with you. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. If you stick with the God's message, if you have that perseverance, if you have that steadfastness, success is with you. That's a promise of God. So, inshallah, that's enough. That was related to the incident of, technically for us was yesterday, but for them was on Thursday night. And indeed they are, as Quran said, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لَمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٌ بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ. They're inshallah living and they're before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we pray that all those who promote this cancerous ideology, this idea of hating people only and merely because of their race or ethnicity, to be punished for this, because they are responsible. Their hands is covered with the blood of these innocent people. These Ann Coulters and so many of them that they write books about this, and they kind of, gift wrap their idea in words. They don't say it the way a lot of their, for example, David Duke, when he says it, he doesn't gift wrap it. But when others who are invited to a lot of these different platforms and invited even to universities to talk about, these are the ones that they gift wrap their message. It's the same thing. They don't say our race is superior. So look at the facts. Be somebody who just care about the facts. And with that, they try to convince people to find support for idea. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and protect our generation and protect all the innocent people in the world, and to give us the strength and power to be protectors of the innocent. Not only to protect us, but also help us to be protectors of those who are helpless, those who cannot defend themselves. With the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I'll in 5 minutes, if it's okay with you. Yeah, no. So, because it's a Wilada Imam Jawad, and I don't want this incident to take over the occasion that we are celebrating, and I don't want this be a reason, because as I said, the entire purpose of that is because in his manifesto he mentioned, I want to scare people. I want to scare them. That's what is part of his mission. And we don't want to let that happen, so let's go back to our normal schedule of honoring Imam Jawad alayhi salam. So talk about the issue, we cannot ignore it, how to tackle it, how to deal with it. That was something relevant we need to discuss. But at the same time, just for the honoring of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, there's a tradition, inshallah I will say, and then after that we go to Q&A, inshallah. A tradition, I believe it could be very helpful because it shows us a guideline that we can keep in mind when we're dealing with a difficult decision in life. The thing is that in every morning, every day, we can do so many things. There's so many possibilities out there. But sometimes the question is, what is the better option? What is the best decision, better choice I can make? And Imam Jawad alayhi salam said, if you keep 3 guidelines in mind, then you are making a good decision as a believer. You will end up making the most productive, more fruitful decision. And when you say productive, not in a business term. Productive in the ideology of a mu'min is that it's productive in this life, in your livelihood in here, and even the coming life, the hereafter. So productive in both worlds, in both aspects. So that is the reason this could be a bit different from what you usually hear from people who talk about productivity in general in business. So what are the 3 guidelines of Imam Jawad alayhi salam? Number 1 said, always keep in mind tawfiq min Allah azza wa jal. That to make a good decision, to be successful, remember that you need opportunity provided from God. Remember that we're not independent actors in this world. Everything we do is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you keep that in mind, it stops you from becoming arrogant or becoming a mini God. To demand a certain result and to expect that everything is in my control and I'm in charge of everything. When in reality, we're in charge of some decisions we make, but there are a lot of decisions in life made for us that we did not take any part in that. So because of that, it's always important to keep in mind tawfiq min Allah. We need to ask Allah to give us the tawfiq, to give us that path and that opportunity to make a right decision. So if you look at Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, you see them that although they make always the good decisions, but even when they achieve a lot of success, they said, we earned this from Allah. We did not own anything. Even a prophet of God would say the same thing. Even Yusuf, when he's able to pass the test before him, and he was able to pass the test because he was mu'min, because he was a believer. But even after passing the test, what he says? God protected me. If it wasn't because of Allah, I wouldn't be able to succeed. And that's true. That's not him being humble. That's not he trying to be, expressing some form of humility. Is that the truly is that even when we do the right thing, everything around us in our existence belongs to him. So ultimately it's from him. Fir'aun is being admonished in Quran over and over. Fir'aun didn't say, I'm Allah. Nowhere in Quran you said that Fir'aun said, I am Allah, I'm the God. What he said was, I am Rabb. Ana Rabbukum al-A'la. I'm your Lord. And what we mean by Lord means the one who's taking care of you. Means when you need something, you come to me. He said, I'm Fir'aun, you need food, you need water, you need access to something. I'm in charge. I provide that for you. I'm your Rabb. And that's what made him to be admonished. Because he thought he's the one taking care of everything. When it comes to our lives, a lot of us, alhamdulillah, when it comes to our belief in oneness of God, that God is the creator, we're fine. We believe in that God is the creator. Except you're in some form of absolute denial and you are delusional, you will not think that you created yourself. There's some, even the atheist will not claim that. There's an accident, we say there's God. They're smart. I go to school, I get a job, I'm in charge. I don't need to go to. At the same time, don't forget that ability to do things is not in decision because we know, I'm in charge of everything. I become less self. Taking care of you have to take care of yourself. You have to be happy. Which we're not against that. It is about happiness. It is about joy. It is about being satisfied with life. But unfortunately, the direction is the wrong direction because the more and more we follow our desires is like a mirage that we think it is water. And the more we run, the further away we get. A lot of our youth think, okay, if I have a car that I want, if I buy a house that I want, if I get married to the person I want, that's it. I'm set for life. I'm satisfied and fulfilled. That's not true. If it was true, all these successful people who end up being depressed wouldn't have been there. So find for something meaningful in life. What is that meaningful? For years we've been directed, make a lot of money, do whatever you want, travel the world, do all these things, you will be happy. And a lot of people did it, and at the end they're not happy. And don't take my word for it. You yourself be the judge. So the happiness doesn't come from that. And there are people that the ultimate happiness for them is that whatever they have, they're grateful. You sleep at peace. I'm not talking about people who are depressed because of genetic and because of some, maybe it's not their fault, it's something chemical imbalance. I'm not talking about them. I'm people who are stressed because of too much dunya. They're overwhelmed because of a lot of stress, in their job and family and all that. They're caused by external forces. Ask them, they have everything, but they're not happy. The list goes on. I don't want to mention their name because I don't know the details about them, right? So it's not about judging that person who did it. Again, I feel sorry for them. It was a human being. What had happened to them to go to the point that said, I have to end my life? And that happens among some of our youth. Some of our youth, they said. I talked to youth who said, I thought about ending my life when I was 14. They thought about it. And I can't say they're weak. I don't say your iman is weak. because something else caused and interrupted your decision. You wanted to go somewhere and something happened in the middle. Azmil faskhil azaim. That's the way you know where God is. How many determination you had and something caused you to not achieve it. That is God. That is a power beyond you. That is power beyond you. And Quran said, don't say I will do this unless you say inshallah. That's the exact word of Quran. That's not just a statement verbally you say inshallah. It means when you're planning to do something, you have to do the planning. So Allah didn't say don't plan ahead of time, don't have a schedule for something. No, you're planning, but don't plan unless you say inshallah, God willing. Because there are a lot of things that I can control. I don't know if I'm healthy. I don't know if that decision will be even valid at that time. Inshallah, if it's God willing, I will do it. And then with that, you were able to adapt. You will not feel disappointed. Because sometimes we plan, something happens, and we feel disappointment. Oh, I thought if I plan, I will be successful. Life is not like that. So that's number one. Guideline number one. Always tawfiq. Ask Allah for tawfiq. That's the reason in the month of Rajab, ask Allah for it. As you're active, as you're planning, don't disconnect from Allah. Don't become a mini Fir'aun that you think and I think that I'm taking care of myself. Because that will be the downfall. Number two, وَوَاعِذٌ مِّن نَفْسِهِ. The second guideline you need in your life and to ultimately achieve productivity of this life and hereafter, you need an internal advisor. Wa'idh means advisor. Min nafsih means from yourself. You need an internal advisor. Let's call it wisdom, aql. A modern word, call it conscience. Whatever you call it. Something that stops you from making bad decisions. That was part of us. That is part of us. When you want to lie and you start sweating and the heartbeats start rising, right? That uncomfortable sensation, that is the internal advisor. That is the first line of defense between you and the sin. And usually when we break that, then the next one happens. So Imam Jawad alayhi salam said, you need that. Embrace your internal advisor. Listen to the warnings. Empower that warner. وَوَاعِذٌ مِّن نَفْسِهِ. How to know if our internal advisor, how to know our aql is actually active, or sometimes we deactivated it. We do it. There are people that they ignore the conscience. They don't even feel guilty. Is the more and more we commit a sin, there's like pathological liars. You know, one name specifically comes to mind right now. If you're a pathological liar, it means you're used to it. You don't even have a benefit. You don't have an objective to earn out of the lying. You just do it. You call somebody with the wrong name and there's a video and you say, no, I didn't. You say, no, it was not a video. He said, but we recorded you. Why even have to lie about it? It's pathological. You get used to it. It's like muscle memory, you know. That sometimes if somebody comes, quickly you do something, you want to react, you didn't even think about it. Lying become that way. Why is that? Because you deactivate what we consider aql. You deactivate it. That's it. It's gone. Now it's just the desires talking. There's no filter. There's nothing. I say whatever comes. That's the reason it seems incoherent. It doesn't make sense because aql is what makes it give it a strategy, objective, body, thesis, introduction. When aql is not there, the desires rumble. They just say whatever comes. And that happens to us as people. If you want to know if our aql is still active, see if I want to do something wrong, do I still feel hesitation? Do I get a bad night of sleep when I'm planning to do something wrong? If the answer is yes, your internal advisor is still active. Your conscience is still with you. But if I want to do something wrong and I do it and nothing, bugs me, I'm doing it, that's it. We deactivate it. And the third one, and I finish with that, Imam Jawad alayhi salam said, third guideline is وَالْقَبُولْ مِمَّنْ يَنْصَحُ اللَّهِ. Is to accept advice from others. Means be open to criticism. If somebody suggested something, accept. قَبُولْ مِمَّنْ يَنْصَحُ اللَّهِ. That will be a guideline. If somebody advises you and you ignore, if I don't listen, if I'm not a good listener and if I don't accept easily, that's not a good sign. That doesn't mean I'm confident. That doesn't mean I'm a very basically well put together person. No. It's opposite of that. Because when you look at the life of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, even they are open to suggestions. Even they are open to advices. Imam Ali alayhi salam used to ask his companions, come and give a lecture, I want to listen. And when companion said, Ya Ali, you are the master of eloquence yourself and you want me to speak before you. And Imam said, there is a benefit in listening that is not in talking. I want to listen. I don't want to be a person that always preach and never listen. So that's the third guideline. If somebody suggests something, your dad, your mom, don't care for the degree. Unfortunately, I've noticed a lot of young people, they only care for very, very super accomplished people to advise them. Oh, Warren Buffett said something is supposed to be good. Right? That famous athlete, oh, if he said it should be good. Doesn't matter the achievement and accomplishment. Sometimes somebody can advise you with no education, no degree at all. Prophet said, I look at children and I learn from them. Children, they play. I see how they're detached from their toys. They play with it and they throw it out in the corner and they go. I learned that I should not be attached so much to the fancy toys of my dunya. I see how they start getting to an argument and fight, and a few minutes later they hug each other and they reconnect. That's a lesson I learned from them. Prophet said, we have hadith and tradition that you have to learn from dog. Look at the loyalty of dog and learn from a dog. From animals you can learn. So anything could be an advisor if you want to. Especially when parents come to advise us, no, you don't know, you were not born here. You don't know what you're talking about. Do you really consider them lower than animals and than children, that we can learn something from them? And I finish with this, inshallah. May Allah give us the tawfiq to keep in mind these three guidelines. Tawfiq, ask Allah, pray to Allah to provide that path for you. That when I make a right decision, the path is clear for me to achieve, to reach destination. So month of Rajab, month of Sha'ban, month of Ramadan, great opportunity to earn tawfiq, earn opportunities, chances. Second one, internal advisor, embrace it, empower it, keep it alive. And the last one, be open to criticism, accept advices of others, and be thankful to the one who advises us. May Allah give us that tawfiq with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.